Thank you, Bright. Thank you, colleagues, for the first batch who start us off. I noticed today, okay, this week we changed the role. The students are presenting and professors are asking us questions. That's a good thing. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malick Fall, and I'm a development professional working with philanthropy in Africa particularly. And I'm going to talk about the role of the diaspora in defending democracy in Senegal. Ladies and gentlemen, the democratization, the third wave of democratization hit Africa in the 1990s with countries like Benin, Togo, Zaire, DRC, and others. For a limited number of countries, that process started a little earlier. For example, Botswana, Mauritius, Cape Verde, the Gambia until 1994, and Senegal. For Senegal, it started in the early 1980s with the multi-party elections in 1981 and the liberalization of the media ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, there are important moments in the democratization process of a country. For example, for Senegal, I will give you three. The first one is 2000, where we had our first alternance, our first transfer of power from a ruling party to an opposition party, and peacefully. And the critical element at that time, it was cell phones, because we started having cell phones in Senegal, and it was used a lot into transmitting the results of the election, and also community radios, and everybody were listening, and it brought transparency into the electoral process, and it helped the first alternance. And it even helped start a new culture, which is the ruling party calling the opposition leader to congratulate him on his win the day of the election. And it was possible just because of that transparency, and everybody knew that opposition leader won. In 2012 also, the determinant factor, it was the internet and social media, because the Yanama movement and youth movement, all people mobilized on social media and push for change, and that's what happened. Last year in 2024, the determinant factor, or one of them, it's the role of the diaspora. We have a very influential diaspora, Senegal, which is not big in terms of size. It's around 3 million people are outside, and it represents only 5% of the electorates, but it's used to be only limited into the financial aspect, providing remittances, but not necessarily having the political impact in the country. The role of the diaspora has to be appreciated according to what happened, the context. From 2021 to 2024, we had a democratic backsliding, with the incumbent trying to manipulate the constitution. He even was trying to postpone the presidential election for the first time in the history of democratic Senegal. And the diaspora was organized. The contribution of the diaspora can be presented in three ways. The first one is the transnational advocacy and protest. The second one is the financing of opposition parties and civil society, which was pushing. And the last one, it was media influence and the narrative. For the first one, transnational advocacy and protest. Protest was being organized in all major big cities, whether it's New York, Washington, Paris, London, Brussels, and so on, to put pressure on the government. And it was done on the side of the UN General Assembly. For example, in New York, you would see that big billboard showing the atrocities, the arrests, and what was happening in the country to put pressure. The diaspora also opened cases, criminal cases against the president on The Hague, but also in some major cities to put pressure. The second one is the financing. This was the first time for the diaspora to divert the financing from the remittances from just supporting education and bills and so on into having a political agenda. And it was very, very successful. It pushed even the government to look at it, and even to ban some of the financing mechanisms, because only the ruling party were able to have enough resources to campaign to do things, and now they have opposition groups being financed by Senegalese from the diaspora, and it was very effective. And the last one, it was challenging the propaganda, government propaganda, and the disinformation. Something which is critical that pushed the diaspora to be more political now, it's what they are seeing in the global north. For example, we have 18 Senegalese in the US. It's a small number, but in terms of influencing the culture, the political culture, it was very effective into showing, okay, African diaspora are facing challenges all over the world because of the far right rise and so on. What if we fix our own countries? Because there is nothing like home. It's important we fix our countries so that we have the economic opportunities in our countries, and it was just very, very effective. In terms of contribution, the remittances, for example, for the Senegalese diaspora, it's $3 billion. It's like 11% of the GDP. It's even double the development assistance, which means it's big money, but it was always being used for domestic consumption, food, paying school fees, and so on. But this was the first time the diaspora has been having a political agenda and pushing, and it was very effective. I will stop there. I hope other countries can use this same method, because many countries have big diaspora, but they don't have a political agenda, and particularly inside the country to influence the direction of the country. And I hope countries that are facing regressive regime, crackdown on the opposition and so on will leverage this opportunity to defend democracy. Thank you very much.